Chamai Waka, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the National Museum of the American Indian. We're very excited to have you here this morning for a spectrum of perspectives, Native peoples, and genetic research. My name is Malia Villegas. I'm the director of the Policy Research Center at the National Congress of American Indians, and I'm going to be your host today, your moderator for the larger program. We are going to have 4 very exciting panels, full with moderators, and an opportunity after each panel for questions and answer. We really, as you can see by the stage setup, want this to be a conversation, a discussion, an ongoing part of the discussions being had across Indian country and across the world related to this topic here today. As is customary, we always want to start by acknowledging the first peoples of the places that we are in. And today we are in Washington, D.C., although we know that this is being live streamed across the country, across the world, and that it will be recorded for future use in terms of educational conversations and tools. So in terms of acknowledging the first peoples, I was very happy to learn when I began to think about moving to Washington, D.C., about the first peoples of this place. And we're very honored to have Mr. Rico Newman welcome us this morning. He is with the Piscataway Conoy tribe here in the region. And so if I could ask Mr. Newman to come up and welcome us in a good way, and if you all wouldn't mind standing as we get started. Thank you.
Villegas. I'm always aware to be respectful of our differences, not just in culture, but in a way that we acknowledge that power we consider greater than ourselves. So I will ask you in joining me in your way in a prayer or however you acknowledge that power. I will say this prayer in my language, then I will translate. So Yahweh, Tali, Wumegama, Wage, Taki, Hakong, Utali, Gatanitu Isa. Gatanito Manitu, Manitu Wak, Owiniwak, Umewak, Hakun, Hawak, Awasugame. Kishila Makong, Willesta. Ni Pitilo Galgun. Aki Angau, Akira Shuki, Akiangawu, Yawu, Ayawashe. Shawu Ayuk, Angabu Wanishi. Wuhuna Yonga, Angabu Wanishi. Lobunashin, Angabu Wanishi. O Apuna Yonga, Angabu Wanishi. Kishil Makong, Walamalisa Washkishi, Koyanamu, Aho. Creator, Master of life, Maker of all things, we come to you in a good way and ask that you listen. We ask that you give us the gifts that come to us from the 4 directions. We ask that those who speak here today stay in good health, and they experience no ill health that will interfere with the work they're about here today. We ask that the winds that bring us the rains from the west also keep their bodies nourished, that they stay hydrated, and that those waters keep their throats clear so their words flow freely as the waters, that their ears stay unplugged so that they will hear what others have to say and the questions that will be asked. And we ask that the winds that move and clear our air also remove any mind creatures that will interfere with them understanding each other. And we ask that the sun that gives us light show them the path and the right way for this work to be done in the best interest of the communities that will be served. For these and the many blessings that we receive, we ask that you accept our sincere thanks. Aho.
Thank you for that, Mr. Newman. Today we're presenting this conversation, this dialogue, this discourse as partner organizations. There are 3 of us, 3 organizations that have been working to try to set a good space here today. And we've got the directors and representatives of these 3 organizations to issue you a brief welcome and to again help us set the right tone. So I'm going to ask Dr. Eric Green, someone who's partnered with us over the last several years, who is the director of the National Human Genome Research Institute, to come up and welcome you this morning. Dr. Green.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's certainly a pleasure to be here and what's going to clearly be an incredibly interesting and engaging day. I wanted to make a number of remarks, in part to help set the context for today. As you just heard, there's really several organizations that have come together to put on this program, and we want to extend our own special thanks to the National Museum of the American Indian for partnering with the National Human Genome Research Institute and welcoming us into their home. Especially Elizabeth Geesh and David Penney. But this is also a partnership that involves the National Congress of American Indians, and a special thanks that we want to express to Jackie Peta, to Malia Villegas, Sarah Petowski, and Sarah Bessio. The other thanks I want to give and acknowledgement is to the Foundation for NIH, which has also partnered with us in putting together what I want to tell you about in a second, which is an exhibition at the Smithsonian at the National Museum of Natural History. But first, let me just say a few words so you know a little bit about us. If you aren't familiar with the National Human Genome Research Institute, we're one of 27 institutes and centers that comprise the National Institutes of Health. We were created by the U.S. Congress just about a quarter century ago to lead the U.S.'s effort in the Human Genome Project and remained funded by the U.S. Congress to really lead genomics research in the United States. So our focus is on genomics and increasingly its applications to improve the health of humans and address issues around human disease and the care of patients. We developed a partnership with the Smithsonian in creating an exhibition called Genome Unlocking Life's Code, which opened a year ago, June, and will be at the National Museum of Natural History up until the end of August of this summer. And you're going to hear a little bit more about the exhibition later from Vince Bonham. But also associated with the exhibition has been a number of programming efforts of lecture series and panel discussions and various other educational outreach activities, of which this is one of those components. And so this has been a very exciting partnership for us with the Smithsonian broadly, and it has brought in other organizations and other topical areas, one example of which you're hearing today. Now, the thing I can also tell you about the National Human Genome Research Institute is essentially since our inception, we have been extremely interested not only in the science of genomics, but on the societal implications of genomic research and genomic advances. And this is exactly how this symposium aligns very nicely with the things that we are interested in. Along those lines, we've had a longstanding partnership with the National Congress of American Indians. And in particular, we developed with them a genetics resource guide for American Indians and Alaska Natives, where Native scholars actually developed much of the content, and then that content was reviewed by NHGRI staff in addition to scientists and Native scholars. And we're really pleased that our partnership with the National Congress of American Indians continues in many ways, and this event today is one of several examples of that. Bottom line is NHGRI is also very happy to be here to participate in this, but also to sit and to listen and to learn. We recognize that there are many issues we want to be aware of in thinking about genomics and as it's being applied in medical care and other areas where genomics is quite relevant. And it's important for us to continually know what people are thinking, what their concerns are, and how we can be addressing those as the science moves forward. So we look forward to today to be able to listen and also to participate and to learn and hear the perspectives of each of the presenters and to hear the subsequent discussion that I'm sure the presenters will stimulate that discussion, because I think it really will help us inform our work as we move forward to reach the goal in the long term that genomics benefits everybody in all communities because it's such a powerful tool. At the same time, though, we want to be cognizant of how it is used in different communities with different values and different ideas. So with that, I would say enjoy the day. I think it's going to be a fantastic one. And I'm going to now turn the podium back over to Jackie Peta.
Thank you, Dr. Green. I'll call my boss up, Dr. Jackie Johnson Peta, Executive Director of the National Congress of American Indians.
Gunischish, kus inyu hatawasak, luka adi ayahat, kagwantan yeri yechitak. I wanted to introduce myself this morning in my own language because today is a special day as we gather here together to have this dialogue and this conversation. Many of you may wonder, first of all, let me just tell you a little bit about National Congress of American Indians. We were created in 1944 when tribal leaders came together and said that they realized they needed to have someone that was the eyes and ears for tribal governments and tribal communities here in Washington, D.C. And ever since that point, NCAI has taken that role and that leadership. And our main purpose is to be able to protect the sovereign rights of Indian country and Indian tribal governments. And in doing so, we found that there was a need for us to also not just be working on just the governmental components, but also to expand into the areas that were emerging so that we could provide the kind of input into tribal governments so they can make wise decisions. And so NCAI created the Policy Research Center. The Policy Research Center's purpose is to really provide the tools and to be able to give that knowledge and that data and that research and make it available to tribes so they can make their own decisions with that information. And so NCAI led with NIH to be able to put together, as you heard, the guide for tribal governments. And in that guide, it really just provides information so tribes can make their own wise decisions. I want to start, as I said, I introduced myself in my own language because my own tribe had this our own conversation about this. Our own tribe needed to decide whether or not, what would we do with, DNA testing and how would we address that. And so today, as one of your panelists later, you'll be lucky to hear from Rosita Whirl, Dr. Rosita Whirl, who actually is my husband's clan sister, and so I wanted to acknowledge her, and that's the reason why I needed to introduce myself. So thank you, Rosita. I also want to thank not only NIH. Vince has been an incredible partner and working with us and collaborating on how we can put forward not just this forum, but the work that we've done previous to this. I want to thank two previous employees of NCAI who were part of the emerging conversation. Christine and Penney. Christine is now with Vince, helping to work on this special project here at the museum. And Penney was very, very helpful in putting together some of the critical analysis and actually putting together the guide. Since that point, our team, as you heard, Malia and Sarah have been incredible leaders and have taken this work and have grown it and developed it, and I appreciate their efforts. This conversation, when we have it at NCAI, is always one where we are sure to have an interesting crowd and a good dialogue. And so I know that you will be it'll be well worth your time here today. And I appreciate all of you taking the time to be able to be part of this conversation. I would love to hear how it helps us shape our continuing work. And I also want to thank, before I exit the podium here, I want to also thank the museum. The museum has always been a great partnership for NCAI. Our collaboration has gone well beyond the director, from even into the wells of the staff here as we move forward on a number of issues and the forums that we have here. I'm lucky to also serve as a board member for the museum in New York. And so we strategize a lot on how Indian country, how we can together collaborate for the educational benefits that will serve Indian country well, and I appreciate their partnership. So thanks very much, and welcome here to the museum.
Thank you, Jackie. And now, as you heard, our third and final partner, our host for today, we've got Dr. David Penney, who is the Associate Director of Museum Scholarship here at the National Museum of the American Indian. Please welcome Dr. Penney.
Good morning. I just wish to welcome you here on the behalf of Kevin Gover, the director of the National Museum of the American Indian, our staff, our board of trustees, and the Smithsonian Institution. Welcome to all of you here for this event. Also, thank you and welcome to our mutual host, Jacqueline, the National Congress of the American Indians, and of course the National Human Genome Research Institute. NMAI has always prided itself as being a location where frank and consequential discussion can take place. And we're very honored to host this discussion today. NMAI is amidst a very special year, celebrating a number of anniversaries. 25 years ago, in 1989, Congress passed the enabling legislation that created the National Museum of the American Indian. 20 years ago, we celebrated the opening of the George Gustav High Center in New York, our ongoing presence and museum for exhibitions and public programs in New York City. In 1994. 15 years ago, we opened the Cultural Resources Center in Suitland, which houses the 800,000 objects under our care and serves as a research center hosting scholars and tribes all across the country and all across the world, actually, to study our collections. And of course, 10 years ago, in 2004, we opened the magnificent facility here on the National Mall. We're going to have a number of events to celebrate these important anniversaries throughout this year, beginning on September 21st, coming right up, September 21st, 2014, we'll open our long-awaited exhibition, Nation to Nation, Treaties Between the United States and American Indian Nations, an exhibition that we've incubated here for quite a long period of time, and we think will add considerably to the discourse about sovereignty, Indian sovereignty in this country. So with that, again, thank you, and we look forward to a very informative day. Thanks.